So we're in the barn right now. I wanted to do some footage before we shear, just so you can understand the things I'm thinking about that are occupying my mind right now. So right now I am on the west side of the barn. This is what we call the west wing. And we have the center section, which is normally where I'll do my Facebook Live feeds and stuff. And then we have the east wing.
What's the big event happening in this side of the barn this weekend?
So this weekend is shearing. And we've selected this wing for shearing for a couple reasons. Number one is it's got the two doors, so it gives a lot more light. We can shut it off here and put all the sheep in those two sections over there. And actually what I'm going to do is all the sheep that I'm ruing, I'm going to segregate on the far east pen. And then the sheep that we're going to shear, the 40 sheep that are going to get sheared, are going to go in this center section. And this section here is where the actual shearing activity is going to take place. And you'll see all that when we do it. But what happens is, usually one of my sons, my two boys, and probably Andrew, will be in charge of grabbing a ewe and pulling it out of that pool. And then he'll bring him in here, or bring her in here, excuse me. And then she will kind of be waiting for her turn to get sheared. There's a person over on this side of the barn, usually, I don't know, for no better reason than it's kind of quieter and out of the way. And that person is going to be doing the record keeping, and they're going to be creating an index card that's going to identify the fleece. And here's an example of one from 2018, which has the name of the ewe, the year that we shear, and their ear tag number. So the name of the ewe, it's just nice to have that. I'll set these in my clear plastic bag with the fleeces so that I can see them when they're up on the shelf. And I just know, Saren is a black ewe, and she's got a very well-defined lock. Just seeing the name, I can make some conclusions about the fleece. The ear tag is just to make sure. That's the easiest thing to grab on the day of shearing, which is kind of hectic and noisy. And so probably Rich or somebody will have the ewe that's next to go, and he'll shout out the ear tag number. The record keeper will write the ear tag number, and then usually the process is they shout it back to confirm. And so that's what's going on there, if you hear that going on during the video. We put the year because I used to have, year over year, I would still have fleeces from the prior year. And it's good to have the year because each year the fleece gets a little bit coarser, or for whatever reason a little different. And so we mark the year on the card as well. So then what happens is, after that, this sheep is done getting sheared, Andrew will grab that one and put her back in the pool with everybody else. And she'll have her coat off at that time. The shearer will grab the one that's standing in queue and shear her up, and then I usually am the one that gathers up the fleece because I'm a little bit particular about how the fleeces are handled. I'm a lot particular about how the fleeces are handled.
Fleeces rolled a certain...
Yeah, I just like to have them bundled up a certain way so that the dirty side is on the inside, and then put them in the bag that the record keeper has prepped with the correct card in it, and I'll say, this is Saren's fleece, right? And the record keeper will confirm again, because we want to make sure we've got the right fleeces with the right marking. And then the record keeper will put the fleece in a pile and make sure that none of the dirt from the bag gets in the other bag, so that's kind of a careful process as well. I'm very particular on shearing day. We don't invite people to the farm on shearing day to view because it's very stressful. It's stressful for the animals. It's stressful for me to watch someone else handle them. The shearer is here for business. He's not an entertainer, and so he's got other farms to get to, so we try to go at a pretty fast pace. So it's a pretty serious day. I mean, it's the day that, kind of determines what our fleeces are going to look like for the year. All the work that goes into raising these sheep, that's the day where all of our results are pretty much determined.
Are there any special conditions for the sheep on shearing day? Do they eat as normal? Do they go outside as normal?
Yeah,
what changes?
Okay, so as far as the ewes go, I'll probably sort them in the morning because we are in lambing. So the yearlings will be on the east side, the bred ewes will be in the center, And this side will be shut off probably because I'm gonna wanna clean it and everything and get it ready. But the morning of shearing, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna resort them so that the ewes I'm gonna rue, like I said, I'll put on that far east side. The ewes that are gonna be sheared will go in the center. I will not feed them. So the morning of shearing, I don't feed them. And to be honest with you, I don't really know why that is. I was just told that that's a good practice by the shearer. I probably should ask him that question this year. So I don't feed them in the morning. And then once everybody's done shearing, then they get fed, they get their hay. The other thing that we do to prep the night before, we're gonna bring the rams in from outside. And that's important because they need to be dry. Wet sheep are difficult to shear, even though their fleeces are quite long and you're not gonna get water close to the skin. The shearers do not like to shear wet sheep. If you wreck my elastic on this, I'm gonna be really ticked. So we're gonna bring the rams in, which is gonna be extremely tricky. And we're gonna put the 2 adult rams in this pen, and then we're gonna put the 6 ram yearlings in the other pen. This all is gonna come down, so that's an activity we're gonna have to do in the next couple days. I don't know if you can see it. So this has been separating this side of the barn, this north side, because we've been using this to store hay all this time. This gate's gonna get removed. This piece of plywood is actually the floor for the shearer, so I'll take this piece of plywood and that'll get laid out over here. And then I'll sweep it off, and that'll be the clean surface for the shearer to do the shearing, and that's where I'm gonna be lifting up the beautiful fragrant fleeces when he finishes shearing the sheep. And then these doors will close, and the rams will be locked in here, and we'll probably keep them in here for a day, just for them to get used to each other and hopefully establish hierarchy in a safe area where they don't have space for charging and whatnot. So that'll be sort of the special accommodations. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. What the shearer is gonna do when he comes, you'll see him, he's got a piece of equipment that he's gonna set up here. There's a pole, a very tall pole, and then there's gonna be a piece that's gonna come here, and his rotary shearing equipment is gonna be suspended from that pole. A little bit different, some smaller farms will use electric clippers. What happens with those is they get really hot. So professional shearers that are doing more than, let's say 10 sheep are gonna use this style. It doesn't heat up and become uncomfortable or unusable for them. So he'll be able to get through the 40 sheep really quickly. It is a powered set of equipment, so we'll be running cable and plugging it in. We do have power here in the barn, which makes that really handy. And that's the reason why the rams have to come in. Like if we used hand clippers that weren't powered, we could probably shear the rams out there, but because we're using a powered shearing equipment, and you'll see that mounted on this beam here, we need to bring the rams in at night.
How do the sheep act after shearing?
The only thing, they act fine, they're fine, but most of them are used to it. Lambs kind of get a little flighty during shearing, but after shearing what happens is the shorn ewe gets introduced back into that group. She's got her coat off, her fleece is gone, so she's gonna smell and look totally different. She's gonna appear to the group like a new ewe that's been introduced into the flock. And there is an initiation process with sheep when they're bringing a new member into the flock.
Lucy's trying to eat the tripod.
When a new member comes into the flock, it's a hazing process, and we'll catch some footage of that also. It's hard to watch, but that's what they do. It's a flocking mentality to get into the flock. They could be a predator. The girls don't know, so they're gonna check her out, make sure they're gonna sniff her, see how she behaves, and then she'll get accepted into the group. And after a day, it's over and everybody's fine.
Will you be sniffing fleeces?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, every chance I get. The whole room just is thick with the smell. It's just amazing.
So when you've been ruing the sheep, the neck and the britch are staying on, and you've also mentioned doing something separate with the belly wool. Can you just talk a bit about the different sections of fleece and why they are separated?
Sure. So the neck is separated because it's really dirty. So few people have asked me about getting neck wool because normally on a sheep, the neck wool is the finest. I will say, in our breeding program, we're trying to get the entire fleece to be all one type, and that is one of our goals. So our neck wool is not as different as the body as you would see on Shetlands where people are not breeding for that. But the neck wool is the softest, but the dirtiest because it's not covered by the coat. So what I would do with neck wool normally is I'll wash that, flick it myself and process it. The britch wool is usually coarser, but anyone that's handled my comb top, a lot of the times I'll get feedback that it does not feel coarse. And again, that's because we are deliberately breeding for fleeces that are consistently fine from the head back to the britch. And Rich's goal is there is going to be coarse wool. He only wants a handful of britch wool that's super coarse. But again, the britch wool is not covered by the coat, so that will go into a pool of wool that goes to the mill, and that is what I use for my comb top. The belly wool, the wool that grows on their belly, is very soft and nice, but it's extremely dirty. So normally I throw that out. This year I'm going to put that in my comb top pile because it's, according to Zeilingers, who is the company that does my wool processing, I showed them a sample of belly wool last year and they said, yep, that could certainly go into comb top. I'll probably end up with a little more waste, but by the end of the day, you'll see the belly wool bag is enormous. There's quite a bit of wool there, so I'm going to comb top that this year.
What do you use the skirtings for when you're processing the fleece around your house?
So there are going to be bits of the fleece that are just unusable. So they're going to have either extremely short and filthy, caked with mud, and those skirtings, I will use those for mulch around plants.
Hi everybody, it's Saturday afternoon and really excited about shearing day tomorrow. I just got in touch with the shearer and he's on track for mid-morning tomorrow. So I wanted to just show you some of the things I'm doing today to prepare. Just because it's like a whole weekend of activity building up and getting ready to shear. I actually just rooed a couple ewes just here this morning. I did Yuki and Freya. I was just wanted to make sure I'd be able to roo them. And so they rooed great, everything was fine. All right, so I'm gonna just kind of take you around and show you some of the stuff I gotta do here in the next couple hours. All right, so this is the side of the barn that we use for storage. So what I'm gonna be doing is taking out all the stuff that's in here. There's panels, those are for the lambing jugs. There's hardware that we use to put the lambing jugs together. And there's an enormous gate that's got to be taken out because this is the part of the barn that's going to be used for the actual shearing activity. That piece of plywood is what the shearer is going to use to shear the sheep on. It gives him a nice flat, clean, safe surface. And the fleece sort of falls really nicely onto the wood and it keeps it from getting dirty. So we've been using that for the last few years. So that'll stay in here tonight. And then I got to clean the floor. So there's just, you know, hay and stuff I got to get cleaned up. I want this to be scraped nice and clean for tomorrow. We're going to shear the rams in the barn, and we like to do that. Well, first of all, it's just easier for Aaron, the shearer, because his shearing equipment is not portable. It's nailed to the wall while he's shearing. So we're going to move these guys into the barn, into one of those two stalls. So I kind of wanted to just show you what my strategy is going to be. I'm going to have the shearer shear nightly, but I think I'm going to roo Jon Snow. As you can see, that wool is just barely hanging on. It'll roo really fast. So at some point tomorrow, before we bring the rams back out onto their pasture, I'll give him a good ruin. So it's extremely wet out here today, but I'm just going to show you the strategy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those temporary fencing panels, and where that gate is right there, I'm going to get them, lead them through that gate, create a lane that's going to go over to this opening here in the pasture. This is actually a pasture that we use for So this pasture is what we use for the ram lambs usually in the summer. So we're going to guide them through here, and then there's an opening at the far end of this pasture that we're going to try and get them to go through. We might end up having to use grain. We don't grain them, but it's a good way to bribe them. And then once we get them through here, we just open up those doors. Those are the south-facing doors, and that's the section of the barn that we're going to be shearing in that I showed you. And we'll just lead them into the one of the two stalls. The other thing we're going to have to do is block off this with some temporary fencing as well. And so that way then there's a safe enclosure for them to make sure they don't get out. So we're also going to shear these 6 rams that are in this pen. These are all yearlings, roughly the same size as the little crew that like to play with me and stuff. So we're going to move them into one stall, and they're going to fit in that one stall really well. It's not going to be an issue. It's good to have them in a confined space so that way after they get sheared there's not as much aggression and stuff. So we're going to do the same thing once we get the 2 adults settled in. Because this will be closed off, I'm just going to lead the ram lambs into the same barn area and put them in the stall next to the adults. So that'll be a logistical challenge. They never do what you want them to do. So the only other thing I need to do today is to clear out a space in the garage for me to put all the sheared fleeces. So I don't know, you guys probably have really nice tidy garages, but for some reason ours kind of gets real cluttery with feed and empty boxes that I use for shipping and just all sorts of stuff. A lot of empties, bottles that I haven't wanted to take in because of COVID. So anyways, it's really cluttered in there, so I got to make a space so that once shearing is done, I'll have someplace to put the clean or the sheared fleeces where they don't get dirty or blow away or whatever. Hey, Luce. So yeah, so that's what's going on today. I'll keep you guys in the loop as things move forward. So it's Saturday morning of shearing day, and I'm down in the wool cave. This is where I usually spend my first part of my day after I feed the sheep, with my coffee, my oatmeal and stuff. But today I'm just trying to get my thoughts organized, and actually I'm taking some footage off on my phone and my GoPro, so I'll be able to get a lot of footage today during the actual main event. I've created my spreadsheet, which has all the information about each of the sheep and their ear tags that we're going to be shearing. I ended up with 39 sheep I'm going to shear. And so, what is that? I don't know. Hang on a second. I'll tell you how many I'm going to ruin now. 26. So I'm going to be ruining 26 sheep. A lot of them I've either completed them or I've done half of them. So what I started doing with some of them was just doing them one side, and then I'll get the other side after we're done with shearing. I just wanted to be able to be comfortable knowing that they would be able to be ruined. So yeah, I got my spreadsheet all set and printed out for my helper, who's going to be marking the cards that go into the bags. I've got my cash for the shearer ready to go. I'll be putting together the supplies upstairs in a minute. I got my checklist of stuff that I want to get done. So my helper gets here at 10:30, and then the shearer says he's going to be here early afternoon, which I don't really know. He doesn't give us a time, just because it's so unpredictable. He's going to be hitting 2 farms before he gets to us, so I'm excited about you guys meeting my shearer. He's really awesome. I think you're going to like him. And so I guess I'm gonna go out and clean the barn floor. I still want to do that. I gotta move the rams and I gotta sort the ewes. I don't need to do any of that stuff quite just yet. I did feed the ewes this morning just because it's too much time between when the shear. Normally we don't feed them in the morning, but I did give them hay. I didn't give the rams hay because I want to use hay to get them to come into the barn. I figured that'd be a good motivator for them. But yeah, just really excited. I mean, when you think about it, all of the work that we do all year culminates in today. This is the day, the big results. And I'm really happy that I am ruing some, because the ones that I'm ruing usually are the ones that just don't shear well. He either struggles getting through the fleece, or there's a lot of waste at the skin side. So I'm really excited. It just, every year that this day comes, it's almost like when you were a kid and it's Christmas Day and you just can't believe it's here. You've been thinking about it all year. So I'm be getting footage throughout the day to make sure you guys see what it's like, see the experience. It's gonna be crazy. All right, I'm gonna finish my coffee and get cleaned up and head outside and putter around a little bit. So here are the 40 ewes. I think it's 39, right?
32.
Plus the rams.
Here, plus the 8 rams.
So these are all the girls that are going to get sheared. And Alice Paul has made a new friend. These are all the ewes that I'm going to finish ruing or rue. So they're separated out.
fine. Another use for the hook I just discovered. Here. Okay, and just start here and work your way down. Okay. Little bits. Looks like it goes better if you grab some more chunks. And you can see where the weak. My goodness. Once you get the hang of it.
So satisfying.
All right, I'm gonna hold his head now, right?
Okay.
You can just go. And when your hands get tired or whatever, okay, I'll take over. Good boy.
So is the stuff in there, well, okay, is this secretions from their own skin, or is this just stuff that has worked its way in over the course of the year?
It's from him. The flaky stuff at the
Yeah.
very end. Yeah, that's his stuff. He's been rude a lot of times, so this is not his first rodeo. You look so good. You look so good.
Just in time for the warmth. Maybe.
You're doing good, guy. Or did I flip you over? How's the back coming? Is it hard?
I can work it out. It's not too bad, yeah. I don't know how close to the actual back of him yet, though.
So yeah, if you ever want to come out for a farm visit, expect to be able to work.
There was a good feeling about a good day with work.
Okay. I am panting. Yeah. Hang on. Yeah, hang on a second here. Hi.
Hello.
We're just getting this guy rude. Like,
Oh, okay. Take your time.
how are ya?
Not bad.
Okay, your plywood is up there.
Okay.
We don't need anything. I think you know. Remember the power. So how's your day going so far?
Pretty good. Can't complain. How are you? This weather.
Come on.
Look at this process. This is fun.
You wanna try it?
I can see what you're doing. You're just pulling it out, right?
Yeah. You can see where the break is there.
Huh.
This is Mindy. She's helping
Hi.
me. Aaron. You can see where the loose.
You
You see the
grab
break
on-
there?
Yeah.
So try and grab
That's how
it.
much it leaves on. I didn't realize that.
So if you sheared
Sheared it, you
him
could- yeah.
and use all that, that would be waste in next year's clip.
Right. And so how do you determine in the spring which ones you're going to root? Do you just have records
I
from past
test
years?
them.
Just try it
And
out.
yes, and records. But like last year, I had one ewe. She brewed really good. I didn't breed her this year. She's not brewing that well.
Huh.
So I'm thinking that might be a factor.
That's neat. And then, you know, without this length, it's still long enough.
Yeah, this is gonna go in the whole top.
Yeah. Huh. That's neat. These would do this.
Yeah. I'm kind of looking over that beam. I'm trying to get my ladder.
Yeah.
Okay. So first I think, well, you like the rams done? Whatever. Okay, so
Whoever. These are all random?
yeah, those are the really, those are the first.
Nice.
Put the rams in the bottom. Yep.
That's so much less on that one.
Yeah.
What's Bob Geiger doing?
Good, yeah, I saw him the other March, or middle of March. Yeah, he's doing all right. So the rest we use?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not Alice Paul.
Wait. 375.
5. Okay.
Sorry.
That's the lamb. Wow. That's Alice Paul. You heard me say beef sapphire?
Yep.
our shearer. Awesome. All right, I want you to tell me about your shoes.
My shoes, that's usually the first question people ask.
Yes.
What do you want to start with? It's just for my own comfort. Gotta have something on your feet, and they're the most appropriate footwear for this job because they're lightweight and they're thin, so they, you know, see, there's leather. This is the leather version. There's also felt ones. Keeps me flat on my feet, so when I bend over, it's better for my back. And it's just,
You know what I like about them
slippers.
is like if you step on the sheep, you know, it's not a hard sole, right?
No, it's very
so it's kind of
thin.
softer for that.
Yeah, which, you know, that doesn't happen much, but yeah, it just, you know, I gotta be light on my feet because I'm moving my legs and my feet a lot, and it helps me to grip the ground and kind of, you know, feel the sheep a little better than
Cool.
boots or shoes would.
Awesome. My other question is, can you just kind of say what are some of the tips for a good shepherd when they're expecting the shearer and stuff? What kind of things should we do to prepare for an optimal experience?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is communication, and so being, you know, on top of it with, you know, giving your shearer enough notice. You know, if you're hoping to shear middle of April, don't wait till April to contact them, but, you know, and oftentimes people don't think of it when it's still cold out and snowy, but, you know, the more notice you give your shearer, the more flexible they'll be with scheduling you. And then leading up to the day of shearing, one of the most important things is to keep the sheep dry. Shearers don't want to shear wet sheep, and your fleeces will be, in some cases, garbage if you do them when they're wet. And then the day of, you know, they shouldn't have any breakfast to eat. They actually sit a lot more comfortably on an empty stomach.
Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
I was wondering about that. I knew we
And
weren't supposed
that
to feed
seems
them.
to matter more in the hot weather.
Oh.
They get kind of gassy, and they just, if they're not comfortable, they're going to fight more.
Gotcha.
And so the whole name of the game, the way I shear, the way you handle them, everything, it has to do with my comfort and their comfort. And,
Right.
and it's a lot less stress on them if they've got an empty stomach.
Awesome. Thank you.
One, three, one, two.
An Audi?
432, he's local law.
Alright, so what are you doing right now? Describe what you're doing.
I am making the tags for the fleeces to go in the bag, marking them off the list when we've got them sheared, and then putting the fleeces in the bag and piling them all over here.
Very good. Nice job. So I felt like I needed to put a little postlude at the end of the video. I'm just now editing it. And once Aaron left and we drug all the fleeces up to the barn, I was pretty much just too tired to do any more videoing, which is terrible, but there was a little bit more work to do. We had to clean up the side to get it ready because we wanted to put the sheep back over there. And then we moved the rams into their own pens soon after so that those two pens were available for lambing stalls. And just, you know, picking up, swept up all the little scraps of wool. It's remarkable how much wool is left, but it's all second cuts. I don't know if you saw, there was one part where Aaron sheared and there was a little blob of second cut, and he knows, he's a hand spinner shearer, he knows to grab that and toss it to the side so it doesn't get included with the fleece. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to go through all the fleeces, I'm going to evaluate them, score them, document the information I can collect on them, and then get them ready for either putting them on our website for raw fleece sale, set some aside for me to process, or send them to the mill for comb top. But it was a great shearing day. I mean, I was really happy with the way it all turned out. Aaron is amazing, and Mindy was really a great help. Andrew and Rich didn't feature too much in the video, a little camera shy. but it was just an awesome day. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little insight into our shearing day once a year. It's very exciting. Thanks again.